I swung the gate of the driveway shut at 5:23 p.m. Sharp, my Fitbit vibrated, congratulating me on 23 minutes ahead of schedule. July evenings in Oak Ridge still carried that honey amber light over the roofs, and for half a breath I savored it. Imagining Melissa's laugh, she likes to throw her head back, little snort at the end, when she realized the night was ours alone. 28 years of marriage doesn't leave many blank pages, yet I tried to ink one tonight. Clocked out early at Bartlett's Auto and Arrow hauled a leaking Cessna cylinder head off before lunch. Sign the work order. No squawks, fly safe. Wash the grease from beneath my nails with that orange pumice soap the kids hate. Even looped across town for tiramisu from Caravaggio's, the one she swore tasted exactly like Florence in '93. Mechanics hate variables. We like torque specs, straight lines, cause and effect. But anniversaries aren't a service bulletin, so I risked the surprise. Still, I sat in the truck longer than a man ought to, with dessert sweating beside him. Engine ticked down, Apple CarPlay screen dimmed, and something in the hush pressed against my ribs, a pressure drop before a storm front. From the curb, the house looked textbook normal. Porch light on, kitchen window glowing, geranium baskets Melissa watered every dawn. No record spinning. Fridays were usually Al Green, or that Miles Davis reissue she insists makes the tomatoes set fruit. Air smelled like laundry sheet lavender, not marinara. Key and lock, the familiar sigh of the hinge. Nest thermostat blinked 72 degrees. Lived in peace. Then footfalls. 3 quick beats and a stop. She appeared at the landing, cinching the belt of a pale blue satin robe I hadn't seen since our 20th. Fabric caught the stair light, haloing her like memory. Her eyes, though, scanned exits. Not me. "You're early," she managed. "Got lucky at the shop," I said, raising the white box. "Happy anniversary, Liz." Her gaze dipped to the pastry, weighed it like an alibi, then skittered sideways. I was just getting ready. "4?" I coaxed, gentle, the way you ease a stripped bolt. She wet her lip. "Spending the weekend at Cindy's." Divorce drama she phoned in tears. "Weekend." The word landed with a dull thud. "Figured you had that faculty retreat prep," I offered. "Fishing. Grant committee breathing down your neck, remember?" She nodded, too eager. "Yes, that too. I can work from Cindy's." Lie floated on the surface tension. I let it drift. In the foyer, her overnight bag waited, upright, rehearsed. New red heels nested against it, tags still whispering price. "Downshift. Nice shoes," I said. "Gift from Cindy, a cheer-up thing." Her shrug was a frame out of sync with the audio. I stepped toward the garage for breathing room. Melissa's Prius sat with trunk ajar. Inside, a whisper of black lace and a tissue-wrapped bottle of Veuve. Anniversary caliber champagne, though, not ours. Static roared in my ears. I closed the trunk soft, as if tucking in a child. Back in the living room, she perched on the sofa, scrolling far too fast. WhatsApp bubbles popped emerald, green, names I didn't recognize. Darren P. Layla M. "Cindy call again?" I asked. She's a mess. Tone had that brittle steadiness she uses when the audit office quizzes travel receipts. Upstairs, our closet showed the hollow where her suitcase lived. Planned, then. On the nightstand, her iPad still unlocked from morning email. One calendar block glowed crimson. Ashmore Inn, room 415. Check-in, 6 p.m. Walt Green. Walt, public speaking consultant, silver-tongued darling of every workshop. Handshake like a metronome. Smile that overstayed. The kind of man who salts every story with your first name so you feel seen. Pulse drum rolled inside my temples. Questions collided. How long? Why now? But one answer already occupied the house, breathing our air. I sat on the bed, palms flat, counting each exhale to 5 like the grief counselor taught after Dad died. Ceiling fan revolved, indifferent. We were okay, weren't we? The thought arrived small, frightened. Turns out belief makes a lousy firewall. Downstairs the latch clicked. Melissa's voice thin. I'll call you when I get there. Legs wouldn't move. Somewhere, tiramisu waited on the passenger seat, mascarpone slumping like a bridge in summer heat. Sunday slipped behind the rooftops. Porch light clicked on automatically smart bulbs. Dumb timing. I stayed listening to the distant hum of lawn sprinklers and the brand new silence between our walls. I stayed on the edge of the bed, her iPad balanced across my knees, the screen glow turning my knuckles ghost white. The inbox looked harmless staff memos, bookstore coupons until one subject line jumped out like a rattlesnake. This Friday Italian theme. I opened it. Green again. Walter Green. Department star. Fake laugh. Handshake that lingered too long. Still thinking about last month. You in those heels. The way you breathed. Can't wait for this weekend. Clara booked 415. Layla, Darren, the whole set. Will make Venice blush. My throat closed. 3 attachments. Melissa in a hotel mirror. Wine, dark bra. A grin I hadn't seen since our 20s. One shot was our bathroom same chipped tile behind her shoulder. She'd rehearsed in our home. I scrolled to her reply. New mask secured. Clara promised us the red room. Bring the playlist. I'll handle wine. I locked the screen and listened to the ceiling fan click through another revolution. 28 years birthdays, mortgages, funeral sand. Behind it all, a second life I'd never noticed. I crossed to her closet, unzipped the travel bag. A velvet mask, massage oil, printed itinerary. Ashmore Inn, 7 rooms Friday to Monday guests, 4 women, 3 men. 7. Not a fling, a roster. The bag hit the floor. I forced air into my lungs, slow counts of 5 like the grief counselor taught after Dad died. Then downstairs steady now purse on the table, contents upended. Cards, keys, an unopened dozen condoms. We hadn't needed those since my vasectomy in '07. Under the box, directions to Ashmore Inn. Every arrow pointed at betrayal. Time for witnesses. First Claire. Sweetheart, it's Dad. I need you home. Mom had a fall, she's confused. Panic crackled through the speaker. She was already grabbing her coat. Copy, paste, send to Jasper, to Zoe. Same lever, same alarm. I opened Melissa's faculty binder. Emergency contacts, committee rosters, cell numbers she thought I'd never touch. Walter's landline was in there. Ring ring. A wary female voice. Mrs. Green speaking. Rebecca, this is Ethan Caldwell, Melissa's husband. We met at the Winter Gala. Silence tightened the line. I'm sorry to ask, but is Walter in Boston tonight? He's presenting at a symposium. Why? I laid out the facts. Room 415, Ashmore Inn. 7 reservations under Clara Dixon. I didn't raise my voice. The details did the shouting. Rebecca's breath caught. You're certain? I'm looking at the paperwork. A brutal pause. Thank you, Mr. Caldwell. I need to make a call. Click. First crack, I thought. Masks always splinter before they fall. Next number. Natalie Roberts, Director of Student Services. Melissa's weekday shadow. 2 rings. Natalie. It's Ethan. A beat too long. Hey, everything okay? Melissa isn't at Cindy's divorce marathon. She's booked at Ashmore with Walter and Clara. 7 rooms. I'm asking once. Are you in this? Her swallow was audible. Ethan, the second can't. The line went dead. 5 seconds later, Melissa's phone buzzed. Natalie calling. I answered. Melissa, he knows. How much did you tell him? My voice stayed low. Not everything. Silence thick as tar, then a whispered curse and another disconnect. So Natalie was inside the circle. How wide did it run? I paged farther staff retreat lists, private extension numbers. Carl Roberts, Natalie's husband, detective sergeant. I dialed the house line. Gravelly voice. Roberts' residence. Carl, it's Ethan Caldwell. Is Natalie home? No, team building in Philly. He yawned. Why? She never left the county. She's at Ashmore Inn with my wife and half the faculty. 7 rooms, Carl. I think they're laundering this as a wellness retreat." Long silence. When he spoke, his tone had steel. "You want this documented?" "I want daylight, Carl. However, that has to happen." "Copy that. Sit tight." I set the handset down and realized my hands were steady for the first time all evening. Fury had found a direction. Footsteps on the stairs. Melissa appeared liquid purple cocktail dress, slit sky high, neckline engineered for a magazine cover. For a heartbeat, I admired her. Habit dies hard. Then I remembered the photos. She clocked the mess on the table, the suitcase by the door, our 3 kids behind me in the hallway, Claire first, Jasper rigid, Zoe clutching a hoodie like armor. Her smile wilted. "What is this?" "You're not leaving," I said. No shout, just fact. Her gaze flicked to the spilled condoms, the cracked envelope of itinerary pages. "You went through my things. You went through our life." I held up the iPad, thumbed it awake, let the message thread fill the silence. Jasper read first, color drained from his face. Zoe's eyes shimmered like someone had upended her childhood. Claire's jaw clenched so tight I feared it might crack. Melissa tried a step forward. I raised a hand. "Stop." The room tightened around her like a noose. She saw it too, realized this wasn't a private argument, but a tribunal. Her voice shrank. "Let's talk alone." "We are alone," I said. "Everything outside this house is a lie. This," I swept an arm at the children, "is what's real." She opened her mouth. No words formed. I felt something shift inside me, grief cooling into resolve. "Sit," I said. She sat. Outside, a sprinkler stuttered to life, ticking against the siding ordinary sound in an unrecognizable night. I heard Claire exhale, a single shuddering breath. Jasper stepped beside Zoe, shoulders squared, silent promise. I watched the 3 of them eat blood, my proof that something good still stood, and I understood what war felt like. The first volley had been fired upstairs. The next would be waged in every room of our lives. And the circle? It was wider than I ever dreamed. Tonight I'd start closing it. The garage door thumped shut, and footsteps hit the stairs. She came down like she owned opening night. Deep violet dress hugging every angle. Slit slicing air, neckline falling past every promise we ever made. Hair pinned into a neat crown, lips the color of fresh blood on snow. I felt a flicker of the old pull quick. Embarrassing, then the pull curdled into something cold. I stood in the hallway, arms folded. Our 3 kids fanned out behind me like witnesses a judge can't ignore. Claire, firstborn, arms tucked, lawyer calm but shaking inside her eyes. Jasper, all kinetic tension, fists bobbing at his sides. Zoe, last to arrive, hoodie half-zipped, confusion written across her face in wide-eyed font. Melissa saw them, saw me, missed a breath. What's going on?" "You're not leaving," I said, voice flat, no heat, just the clang of a slammed gate. She looked at the front door, at her purse on the console, credit cards, lipstick, room key half out of the pocket like a banner of surrender. "You lied to them," she whispered. "You told them I was hurt." "I told them something that would bring them home fast," I said. "You understand how that works." A single hard step and I blocked her path. No more gentle negotiations. I reached into the purse, lifted the plastic keycard. Ashmore Inn, 415. The kids leaned forward as if a judge had lifted the evidence bag. Next, the little mesh bag clinking with 3 miniature Prosecco bottles. I let them drop to the entry table. They rolled and tapped the wood like roulette balls. "Ethan, please let me explain." She still used my name like prayer beads. It bounced off. I swung the iPad around. Thumbprint accepted, message thread glowing. "Clara Dixon. Mask, violet wrap, wax heaters packed. Walter says you 2 get the corner this time. He wants privacy for the couple's games tower." Melissa's pupils shrank. A small gasp escaped the sound of a pinhole ballooning into a breach. Jasper's voice hit first, rough. "Mom, seriously?" Zoe hugged her own arms. I don't understand any of this. It isn't what you think, Melissa managed. Clara's exaggerating. It's complicated. Complicated? I barked. Like lingerie in the trunk complicated? Like 7-room block under your dean's credit card complicated? Her mouth opened, stayed open, no words. Something behind my ribs cracked. I stepped in, grabbed the neckline fabric, tore like cheap wrapping, dress falling in 2 halves. Lace flashed, stockings glittered in hallway light. Zoe yelped and turned away. Jasper's jaw said rock. Hard. Claire didn't flinch, she cataloged the crime scene. Melissa stumbled back, arms crossing her chest. What is wrong with you? That dress was our 25th anniversary gift, I said, voice quivering but firm. You saved it for strangers. She wheeled, maybe to bolt, and the door swung open on cue. Liam and his girlfriend Adrian, winded from the sprint in. Liam froze at the tableau. Half-naked mother, shredded silk on hardwood, condoms shining like confetti near her heels. His face traveled through 6 emotions, landed on disgust. Adrian covered her mouth. Silence spread, thick as smoke. I dropped another card on the table. A folded letter addressed my dear husband, her alibi about assisting her sister with an ailing mother. Claire picked it up, scanned, then raised her eyes, cold as January. Grandma's gardening this weekend, she said softly. Healthy as ever. Melissa's shoulders sagged. Liam pointed at the condoms. Water balloons, Mom? Really? The house phone rang. Gold landline we never used, unless storms killed the cells. Claire answered, listened, and handed it to me. It's Rebecca Green. Rebecca's voice was low steel. Ethan, they just impounded Walter's car. He told the trooper he was driving to a conference. I told the trooper that car's in my name, and he had no permission. He's in cuffs outside the Ashmore right now. A pause. Thought you'd want the update. I thanked her. When I hung up, Melissa's knees buckled. Jasper caught her by reflex, then recoiled, as if contact burned. Doorbell again. Claire opened it to Frank and Evelyn, Melissa's parents, cheeks whipped by night wind. Frank took in the scene, stopped at the ragged dress, the bruised silence. Explain, he said to me. I handed him the folded alibi. Evelyn hurried to wrap a throw blanket around Melissa's shoulders. Melissa sagged into her mother, but Evelyn's grip was stiff, eyes hard. Frank read every word, hands trembling. You told us your sister needed you, he said, voice cracking. We raised you to be honest. Melissa whispered. I lost myself. Tears streaked her rouge. I didn't plan. You planned everything. Claire cut in a single slice. Keycards, champagne, playlist titled Midnight in Naples. I just saw it in your phone backups. The kids closed ranks beside me. A wall she couldn't climb. Phone buzzed again. Text from Detective Carl Roberts. Warrant served. 7 rooms locked. Photos taken. No one going anywhere tonight. Proof that the circle was bigger than passion. It was procurement, funding, signatures. I read the text aloud. Even Evelyn winced. Melissa buried her face in the blanket. I don't know how it got this far. It got this far because every time the door cracked, you walked through it, I said. And every friend who cheered you on opened the next one. Frank exhaled, long and broken. Is there any road back? Roads are earned, I answered. Silence. It settled like dust after a demolition. I finally spoke to Melissa, quiet so the kids strained to hear. Go upstairs. Put on clothes that belong to the life you're still part of. Pack what you need. Dad will drive you to a hotel. Tomorrow my attorney contacts yours. She hesitated. Ethan, please. Move. She moved, blanket trailing, feet bare, the broken halves of the dress whispering behind her on each step. While she packed, the kids drifted into separate corners, texting cousins, staring at family photos now cracked with new meaning. I heard Claire on speaker with our lawyer friend, calm and lethal. I heard Liam mutter to Jasper about changing the house locks. Even Zoe, sweet Zoe, was in the doorway listing every birthday Melissa had missed because of retreats. The conspiracy wasn't just in faculty lounges. It was wedges driven into calendars and dinners and school plays. Melissa reappeared in jeans and a faded college hoodie, suitcase bumping each stair like a slow drumbeat. Liam blocked the front door long enough to ask, "Which retreat covers betrayal insurance?" She couldn't answer. Frank lifted the suitcase, eyes wet. Evelyn hovered, unsure whether to scold or comfort. Melissa paused on the threshold, looking at each child like they were photographs already yellowing. "Don't throw me away," she said. I didn't raise my voice. "You threw first." She stepped onto the porch. Winter air knifed through the opening, and the house felt suddenly wider, colder, honest. The sedan pulled away. Tail lights vanished behind hedges. Inside, Claire closed the door and leaned into it, as if holding back a tide. Jasper gathered the shredded silk into a garbage bag, tied it tight. Zoe picked up the rolling Prosecco's and set them in the fridge, evidence chilled for a future courtroom. Liam slumped on the stairs, exhaling for the first time. Nobody cried. Not yet. Grief was still a theory. Shock had the floor. I walked to the dining room window, saw neighborhood porch lights flicking on. News traveled at the speed of glass. Curtains twitched. Somewhere, a phone snapshot glowed Melissa, draped in blanket, loading into her father's car. By morning, every group chat from campus coffee rooms to church Bible circles would know. The circle she trusted had become the web that would hang her. I felt the tiniest moment of pity, then remembered the bruises under the wedding band she left upstairs, the emails coded as conferences, the kids' faces when the silk split open. Pity dried up. "Behind me," Claire asked. "What happens now?" "Now," I said. "We lock the doors, we sleep, and tomorrow we start telling the truth in daylight. All of it." She nodded. Jasper flicked off the hallway light. Zoe followed him upstairs. Quiet settled, the honest quiet of a house emptied of lies. I listened for a long time, until the furnace kicked in and the vents sighed. Outside, somewhere far, tires crunched on Gravel Frank's car reaching the main road. Carrying the woman who had everything and wanted more until everything was exactly what she lost. The curtain had ripped wide open. Act 2 was over. Intermission would be short. Morning crept in gray and raw, the kind of light that makes last night look like fiction. I lay on the couch in the clothes I'd never changed out of, trying to remember a house that had once breathed peacefully. Upstairs, the kids' doors opened one by one. No footsteps, tiptoed, no one owed silence anymore. Claire came down first, already in slacks and a fitted jacket, phone pressed to her ear. She nodded, muttered, "Yes, deposition if needed," and slipped into the kitchen. The kettle clicked on. Lawyer mode at 6 a.m. My father's genes had chosen well. Jasper followed, barefoot, shoulders rigid. He glanced at the shredded silk still bagged beside the trash can and looked away. Zoe trailed him, hoodie sleeves pulled past her palms. No one spoke, yet the air felt louder than a stadium. My phone buzzed. "Detective Carl. Morning, Ethan. Operations wrapped. Asset forfeiture team seized the Ashmore surveillance drives. They've got everything. Sign-in sheets, card swipes, bar tabs charged to the college grant. Your packet and statement are ready by 10. I thanked him. Every word landed like another nail in a lid. News traveled faster than sunlight. By 7 a.m. local radio ran with university faculty caught in wellness retreat scandal. Police raid Ashmore Inn. Someone online already christened it number 7 rooms. Claire slid her phone across the table, 15 unread messages from reporters, 2 from campus board members begging for a quote. She tapped one article open. Walter Green in cuffs, hair disheveled, suit jacket half inside out. Clara, shielding her face behind a folder stamped human resources. Zoe whispered, "I used to bake brownies for her charity drives." Anger cracked through the whisper. She shoved her sleeves higher, like deciding sleeves were optional from now on. At 8:12, the doorbell rang. Frank stood there, eyes red, coat collar soaked by mist. He stepped inside, closed the door gently, the courtesy of a man who doesn't know which rooms are still safe. "She's at the Woodlawn Motor Lodge," he said. "Refused breakfast, won't stop shaking." I nodded once. Not sorry, not vindicated, Just clocking data. He handed me a sealed envelope. She wrote this around 3. Asked me to deliver it. I didn't open it. Paper could wait. Living people couldn't. Adrian arrived with pastries, nobody touched. She perched on the arm of the sofa beside Liam, offering the box like a peace treaty between worlds. Liam shook his head, forced a smile no one believed. The university president finally called at 9. I answered on speaker so the kids could hear. Professor Caldwell, we've placed Melissa on immediate unpaid leave pending investigation. HR says travel funds were falsified under a peer learning memorandum. We're cooperating with police. I'm deeply sorry. Zoe's laugh was small, sharp. Sorry cost nothing, she said. The president heard it. His apology shrank even smaller before the line went dead. Frank poured 2 fingers of the scotch I'd been saving for the twins' graduation and sat across from me. She asked if there's any chance you'll speak with her. Not today. He nodded, like he'd already guessed and sipped, wincing not at the burn, but at the memory of handing his daughter into a night that spat her back in pieces. The envelope weighed on the coffee table. Finally, I tore it open. No greeting, no date. I built a maze because I was sure I could always find the center again. Last night, I met the Minotaur and realized it was me. I won't defend it anymore. Tell the kids I love them. Not because I deserve to speak, but because you deserve to hear me admit it. Whatever road back exists, I know it doesn't start where I stand now. No excuses, no plea. It should have felt like closure. Instead, it was an unfinished chord. The kids read it in turns. Claire folded the page once, twice, then laid it in an evidence file like a professional might, but her eyes stayed glassy until she blinked them clear. Mid-morning, Zoe rooted through a junk drawer and found the Polaroid snap we'd taken last summer family photo at Lake Superior, Melissa laughing at a gull stealing her chip. Zoe pinned it to the fridge with a magnet from the same trip, then turned it face down. I'm not ready to throw it out, she said, but I can't look at it either. Nobody argued. At noon, Detective Roberts texted a single sentence. Green and Dixon posted bail. Press conference at 2. I pictured microphones, flashbulbs, scripted remorse. Public spectacle was just another room in their hotel, different wallpaper, same games. Morning crept in gray and raw, the kind of light that makes last night look like fiction. I lay on the couch in the clothes I'd never changed out of, trying to remember a house that had once breathed peacefully. Upstairs, the kids' doors opened one by one. No footsteps tiptoed, no one owed silence anymore. Claire came down first, already in slacks and a fitted jacket, phone pressed to her ear. She nodded, muttered, yes, deposition if needed, and slipped into the kitchen. The kettle clicked on. Lawyer mode at 6 a.m. My father's genes had chosen well. Jasper followed, barefoot, shoulders rigid. He glanced at the shredded silk still bagged beside the trash can and looked away. Zoe trailed him, hoodie sleeves pulled past her palms. No one spoke, yet the air felt louder than a stadium. My phone buzzed. Detective Carl. Morning, Ethan. Operations wrapped. Asset forfeiture team seized the Ashmore surveillance drives. They've got everything. Sign-in sheets, card swipes, bar tabs charged to the college grant. Your packet and statement are ready by 10. I thanked him. Every word landed like another nail in a lid. News traveled faster than sunlight. By 7 a.m. local radio ran with University faculty caught in wellness retreat scandal. Police raid Ashmore Inn. Someone online already christened it number 7 rooms. Claire slid her phone across the table, 15 unread messages from reporters, 2 from campus board members begging for a quote. She tapped one article open. Walter Green in cuffs, hair disheveled, suit jacket half inside out. Clara shielding her face behind a folder stamped Human Resources. Zoe whispered, I used to bake brownies for her charity drives. Anger cracked through the whisper. She shoved her sleeves higher, like deciding sleeves were optional from now on. At 8:12, the doorbell rang. Frank stood there, eyes red, coat collar soaked by mist. He stepped inside, closed the door gently, the courtesy of a man who doesn't know which rooms are still safe. She's at the Woodlawn Motor Lodge, he said. Refused breakfast. Won't stop shaking. I nodded once. Not sorry, not vindicated, just clocking data. He handed me a sealed envelope. She wrote this around 3, asked me to deliver it. I didn't open it. Paper could wait. Living people couldn't. Adrian arrived with pastries nobody touched. She perched on the arm of the sofa beside Liam, offering the box like a peace treaty between worlds. Liam shook his head, forced a smile no one believed. The university president finally called at 9. I answered on speaker so the kids could hear. Professor Caldwell, we've placed Melissa on immediate unpaid leave pending investigation. HR says travel funds were falsified under a peer learning memorandum. We're cooperating with police. I'm deeply sorry. Zoe's laugh was small, sharp. Sorry, costs nothing, she said. The president heard it. His apology shrank even smaller before the line went dead. Frank poured 2 fingers of the scotch I'd been saving for the twins' graduation and sat across from me. She asked if there's any chance you'll speak with her. Not today. He nodded like he'd already guessed and sipped, wincing not at the burn, but at the memory of handing his daughter into a night that spat her back in pieces. The envelope weighed on the coffee table. Finally, I tore it open. No greeting, no date. I built a maze because I was sure I could always find the center again. Last night I met the Minotaur and realized it was me. I won't defend it anymore. Tell the kids I love them, not because I deserve to speak, but because you deserve to hear me admit it. Whatever road back exists, I know it doesn't start where I stand now. No excuses, no plea. It should have felt like closure. Instead, it was an unfinished chord. The kids read it in turns. Claire folded the page once, twice, then laid it in an evidence file like a professional might, but her eyes stayed glassy until she blinked them clear. Mid-morning, Zoe rooted through a junk drawer and found the Polaroid snap we'd taken last summer family photo at Lake Superior. Melissa laughing at a gull stealing her chip. Zoe pinned it to the fridge with a magnet from the same trip, then turned it face down. I'm not ready to throw it out, she said, but I can't look at it either. Nobody argued. At noon, Detective Roberts texted a single sentence. Green and Dixon posted bail. Press conference at 2. I pictured microphones, flashbulbs, scripted remorse. Public spectacle was just another room in their hotel, different wallpaper. Same games. It didn't end when Melissa's suitcase cleared the threshold. Houses don't go silent just because the intruder leaves. They echo. And echoes, it turns out, take their time dying. The first days were logistics insurance forms, temporary schedules, lawyers talking to lawyers while I listened to my own pulse. The airline I flew for put me on compassionate leave. Family trauma is cockpit trauma, my supervisor said. I didn't argue. I couldn't have steered a lawnmower, let alone 200 passengers, without picturing a velvet mask and 7-room keys. Claire moved back into her old bedroom, the one with debate team ribbons still taped above the desk. At night, I'd catch her drafting legal motions, earbuds in, eyes rimmed red but hands steady on the keyboard. Jasper didn't move home. Instead, he called every evening, same hour, same porch, light glow behind him, as if checking the perimeter from a distance. Zoe stayed on campus but blocked her mother on every app and mailed back a birthday card Melissa had written during the retreat planning. The envelope came home unopened, red marker across its face, return to sender. The town learned the rest before we could catch a breath. A local reporter dug through public record reimbursements, found line items labeled Wellness Symposium and Experiential Stress Therapy, grant money, tax dollars. Headlines followed, each one larger than the last, until the scandal had its own hashtag. Number 7 rooms was neon on every phone screen and faculty lounge. You could feel reputations bleaching under the glare. The college trustees fired 5 people the moment the warrant was unsealed. 2 deans, a finance officer, a nurse who'd build group therapy supplies, and Walter Green, the star psychology professor who apparently wrote his own performance evaluations. He lost his tenure, his campus housing, and within 2 weeks, his spouse filed for divorce and an emergency protection order. Rebecca Green called me after the court date, voice calm in a way only scorched earth can be calm. He said your wife seduced him. I I reminded him seduction isn't a defense against fraud. Then she laughed. Once, no joy in it, and hung up. Clara Dixon survived the blast. She resurfaced on a morning talk segment as a whistleblower, claiming the men on the list coerced her into filing fake invoices. The network ate it up. Courageous administrator saves herself, blames patriarchy. She retired with pension intact and a book deal rumored to be in the mid-five figures. People asked if I would sue her too. Eventually, I said, because vows come in many forms and some are made to ourselves. Melissa's termination letter took longer. Human resources always write slow when the subject used to sit at their table. They couched it in phrases like breach of ethical duty and material misrepresentation. She lost her salary, her health plan, and the faculty ID that once opened every door on campus. The same week, Natalie Robertshire, confidant, recruiter, handler was charged with wire fraud. Detective Carl texted me a photo of the arrest report and captioned it, "Root systems larger than the tree." He never uses emojis. The period at the end felt like a gavel. The kids' grief hardened into boundaries. Claire changed the locks and mailed her mother a notarized notice barring entry without 48 hours written consent. Jasper blocked unknown numbers. He said if his phone rings after dusk, it's either bad news or a telemarketer, and both belong in voicemail. Zoe transferred to another university halfway across the state, told me a fresh start required fresh streets. I helped her move, carried boxes of novels and a single framed photographor of us on a hiking trail, minus Melissa, who'd skipped that weekend for a board retreat. Zoe faced the picture toward the dorm wall, smiled thinly, and said, "Space filler. I'll replace it later." My own suit went forward. Negligence, emotional distress, enabling misconduct. The college settled before depositions, 6 figures, and an apology statement drafted by public relations lawyers who underlined familial harm 3 times. The money paid Claire's graduate loans, Zoe's transfer fees, and half a new roof literal damage control under literal shingles. But the apology felt weightless next to the nights I woke to an empty half of the bed, reaching for someone whose warmth now meant ash. 8 months in, routine pretended to return. I flew Boston, Dallas, Seattle loops, filed flight reports, watched sunrises from 37,000 feet, a mile above questions I couldn't answer. Then, layover in Akron, I pushed open the gym's exit for air and found Walter Green leaning against a brick wall, cigarette in hand, looking smaller, older, but still carrying that smirk like a badge of tenure. He nodded, casual, and said, "Life goes on, Ethan." 6 months. That is how long number 7 rooms has been drifting downriver, losing headlines, gaining moss. The town still knows, but the outrage has cooled to a fact you nod at, like last year's flood line on a brick wall. Melissa checked herself into the Ridgeway Clinic in late winter addiction unit. Validation, impulse control, intimacy disorders, words that fit neatly on a clipboard but not on a life. Every Friday at 7 p.m. the ward phone rings. On good weeks I answer. Her voice is slower now, vowels flattened by meds, but she keeps the script tidy. I was empty. I was scared. I see it so clearly now. I let the words come, let them fall. I rarely pick them up. The kids set their own terms. Claire stays in the guest room 3 nights a week. A legal pad always open, drafting policies for a company that audits nonprofits for fraud. She is 28 and already teaching institutions where the weak seams are. Jasper won't speak her name. He pours that silence into his design firm and sends me photos of buildings he's sketching clean. Load-bearing lines, no secret rooms. Zoe has thought enough to text occasional one-liners dad. Saw a dog that looked like a pretzel. Made me laugh, but she still refuses to share air with her mother. United Airlines kept my jump seat open, but I never went back. The sky felt contaminated, like flying through old smoke. Instead, I leased a cinder-block garage off Route 40, painted the sign myself, Caldwell Engines and Restorations. Carburetors do not lie. Torque specs never promise love then run. I rebuild straight 6 blocks, Sandblast rust. Tune suspensions until the idle hum is as smooth as a held breath. Most evenings, Claire finds me under a hood and leaves coffee on the fender. No lid. Sugar stirred once signal that conversation is optional. I have learned to inventory my thoughts like parts bins. Guilt beside anger. Next to the bin marked things I should have noticed. Was the rot visible? Maybe. People show hairline cracks if you stare long enough. But marriage teaches selective blindness. Some gaps feel polite to ignore until the foundation heaves. Melissa earned 4 supervised visits with the kids. The first happened in April. Clinic garden, a counselor on a bench pretending to read. Claire attended in courtroom posture. Jasper sent a single paragraph by email. Healing requires reciprocity. I'm empty. Zoe watched from a window 20 yards away and left before the hour was up. Melissa tried to smile each time a sparrow landed on the feeder. That smile looked like someone borrowing a face. May brought a relapse scare clinic note, said she flooded her social feed with old photos at 3 a.m., begging for validation hearts. Nurses confiscated the phone. She reset the count to day 1. I did not answer that week's call. Work helps. An Army vet brings his 78th Scout for a new clutch. He tells me war stories while I torque bolts. A high school kid saves lawn mowing money to swap a turbo into a '99 Subaru. I teach him how boost actually works and watch his grin crack the grease on his cheek. Engines give back exactly what you give them. People, less so. Still, Melissa tests the lock. Twice, she showed up at the house without ringing. The first time I met her on the porch, arms crossed, said the kids weren't home. We stood inside 10 feet of our old life, said nothing until she started to cry. She told me, I love you without angle now. I don't want back in, I just want you to know. I nodded. That was enough dialogue for the day. The second time, she stepped into the foyer, halting, as if the floor might refuse her weight. We sat at opposite ends of the sofa we once chose together from a showroom. 10 minutes, no words. Her eyes scanned family photos, stopped at the beach shot, where she was already cropping herself out in her mind. She whispered that the clinic asked her to make amends, but amends felt like asking a forest to believe the match is sorry. Before she left, she touched my hand quick, trembling like testing the heat of a burner she already knew was on. We have not slept together since the night the mask broke. Some fires can be smothered. Some are better left to starve. Intimacy now would be archaeology, digging through soot for something that might still spark. I am done setting bandages on top of embers. Justice depends on the ledger you use. Walter lost tenure, license, house in the suburbs, and a fair share of anatomical dignity. Clara sold 40,000 copies of her memoir and tourist conferences titled Women Reshaping Narrative. But every panel ends with someone asking about forged invoices. The college rebranded its wellness program, hung new mission statements, but parents still point at campus gates and whisper. Scandals stain like hydraulic fluid clean the pool, the slick remains. And Melissa? She misses her reflection. She told me mirrors hurt because they show a version of herself that no longer convinces anyone, including the glass. She cuts hair shorter each month, like pruning a tree that betrayed its own fruit. Work is a 6-hour shift at a thrift store downtown where the manager keeps an eye on her around the donation bin. She says folding other people's cast-offs teaches humility. I hear the sentence and think, folding is the easy part. Living with wrinkles, there's the cost. I lost the illusion. That is the scariest amputation. A limb you did not know was attached until it is gone. Yet the space it frees can be useful. I fill it with torque wrenches clicking home, with Jasper's midnight sketches, with Zoe's shy jokes, with Claire's legal pads stacking like shields. Most nights end with me on the back deck, socket grease still under my nails, sky thick with stars that don't care whose vows failed. I have a rule, 3 breaths before bed, naming things that cannot be taken integrity, patience, spark plugs properly gapped. It helps. So does the dog we adopted from the shelter, a mutt with one eye who trusts anyway. He sleeps beside my work boots, proof that scarred things can guard a doorway just fine. If you're still listening, remember this. Love is not blinded, it's selectively sighted, and selection is a discipline. Check who shares your pillow, yes, but also check the story you tell yourself when their back is turned. Trust is beautiful until loaded like a weapon. Curiosity is the safety catch. And if your gut ever whispers that something is off, treat that whisper like smoke under a door. Open windows, call for help. Walk out if you have to. Houses can be rebuilt, lungs not so easily. I do not watch the match anymore. I watch the oxygen, the thing that feeds flame, and I keep a full can of water nearby, just in case.